All right, everybody, I'm here with Maggie. Maggie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Tyler?
Good to see you. Thank you for coming to the church today for the Midweek Podcast. We are, as we record this, almost done with our first ever run of the Rooted Experience.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. It's been an incredible, again, by the time this is released, we'll be done. It was an 11-week journey. A little bit of the history, Rooted, just for everyone listening, is you've been running our Alpha program, mainly at our Waukesha campus for how long?
Since 2012, I've been leading it.
Yeah. And we love Alpha. We want to continue to do Alpha. But for a while, tell me about kind of the hunger for something more, something after Alpha that made us look towards the Rooted Experience.
So Alpha forever, there's been a desire from everybody who attends Alpha to continue.
Yeah.
To do something else. So much so people have done Alpha 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a row.
Yeah.
Because the way it's structured and the way it teaches is very different than a standard Bible study.
Right, which I love.
Yeah, me too. We've searched. We've tried 3 different classes as maybe this would be a natural thing to happen after Alpha, and all 3 of them fell short.
Sure.
And probably the end of 2023 is when I learned about Rooted. And there's another church that is doing it as a follow-up to Alpha.
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and it really, really felt like this was meant to happen after Alpha.
Yeah, and it's been awesome. I won't belabor the point about all that goes into Rooted, but I think that we should just say scoreboard, or we should just let the proof be in the pudding and share some testimonies. But just to keep it really short, there's a sentiment in the church that people share where they go, man, I want to be a part of a church like the early church. I want to be in a Book of Acts type Christian experience, which I think is a great sentiment.
Yes.
Because if anybody got it right, it was the people that were right there near the time of Jesus. I think about that as be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. And I do think that the Rooted Experience, in a lot of ways, captured what it was like to be a Christian in that Book of Acts time frame. And in fact, there's these things called the rhythms of Rooted that we walked through. And it's all based out of Acts chapter 2, where we ate food together. We really bore our souls together. We're really honest about things. We shared, we served together. It really was reflective of what it was like in the early church. Not in every way, but in a lot of ways. But again, without over-explaining what Rooted is, we'll share some details later. Let's just kind of look at the scoreboard. At week 10 in Rooted, everyone fills out it's called a cardboard testimony, where on one side of the sheet it says, 10 weeks ago I, and on the other side it says, today I. So I have 4, you have 4. I'll let you go first. Why don't you share your first cardboard testimony? These are people that have gone through the Rooted Experience here at Bridge Church.
Right. They're actually still going through it
right
while we're recording it. 10 weeks ago, I looked forward to what this Rooted class group would be, and it's been really encouraging, and I've met more wonderful believers. Today, I'm very glad I did this class, and it helped in so many ways.
Awesome. My first one says, 10 weeks ago, I didn't know why I felt the nudge to start this study. Today, I am so grateful. I feel so empowered to renew my mind and see how God uses us further. My visions are back. So somebody that felt like they had the gift of God giving them visions, and they feel like that returned to them during the Rooted Experience.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
10 weeks ago, I felt alone and trapped. Today, I feel surrounded by love. In
Awesome.
10 weeks.
That's awesome. Mine just says 10 weeks ago I was so thirsty, and today I can't wait to find out the next cup that I get to drink from.
10 weeks ago, I was looking for ways to grow and deepen my walk. Today, I'm walking intentionally and focusing on the growth I'm experiencing.
So this person for mine actually just wrote on 10 weeks ago and kind of combined them. They said, 10 weeks ago, I didn't know all these lovely people. Okay. Connected in community. I love it.
Yes.
I feel blessed to be welcomed into their lives and learn more about them. We know God is relational, and I feel blessed to have a deeper relationship with others because of Wednesday nights and the Rooted experience. Awesome.
I agree with that one so much.
Yeah.
10 weeks ago, I had prayed that God would help me to connect with other believers, strengthen my church family, and get to know my church family better. Today, I am very blessed and grateful. He has answered and showed me some incredible new truths through Rooted.
Awesome. And last one, 10 weeks ago, I was not plugged into church very much, and I was not studying the Word. Today, I am more connected to community at church, and I am enjoying studying the Bible. It was such a good 10, 11 weeks, wasn't it?
It really, really is.
Tell me about just some of your highlights.
You know, for me, I think my experience is probably different than yours because you did this in your home church that you're in with the group of people you see all the time.
Sure, at the Oconomowoc campus.
Right, in the Oconomowoc campus. I found myself in this very bizarre position where I came into a room of virtual strangers. They don't see me on Sundays. They don't really know who Maggie is.
Yeah.
So quickly, like you said, the study, if you want to participate, you're going to get involved.
Right.
And you are going to grow. And one of the things I think that made that so powerful was we got uncomfortable.
Right.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Day one, it was, okay, you two leaders, give your testimony.
Yeah.
You know, and so the vulnerability and the confidence everybody had to hold so that we could be vulnerable. We could do life together.
Right.
We could have hard conversations. We could bring our struggles to the table.
Right.
And people showed up in big ways.
Yeah.
And we both have stories of that in our groups.
Yeah, for sure.
Where lives were radically, radically changed. As soon as for my group, week 5, where people were doing things and saying things and experiencing things that they never, ever thought were going to happen.
Yeah.
And that easily is a highlight for me.
Well, I think that's a really interesting dynamic. You're all-team Bridge Church, but then being a 2-campus church, you showed up and didn't know as many people as you know here at the Waukesha campus. Yeah, that's a really good angle, really good perspective that I think you had. And you mentioned each week, and this is part of one of the rhythms of Rooted, is each week 2 people share their testimony. And that might send people running for the hills, but I think once you come and see it, you'll see that it is such a good thing to have the opportunity, not just to share your story, but to take 5 minutes, like a solid 5 minutes or so, to hear really where that person that might sit across the sanctuary from you on a Sunday, where they came from, how they came to Christ, what they struggle with, what they've been through, what they've endured through. It was so special, even as the pastor of the campus, to really have extra time to hear from people's stories. And for me, highlight-wise, there's a certain night where we really get in depth with any struggle that we might have. It's called Strongholds Night. And I'll tell you what, in my Rooted group, we spent a lot of time talking about struggles that we have and how we relate with them and maybe how other people have overcome them. But we spent a good amount of time just talking about it, meaning we at the end of this conversation, we spent maybe 15 minutes going, I could use this more often. Man, the honesty in this room is refreshing. I thought I was the only one. How guys were starting to brainstorm, how could we launch a group and do this more often and be more honest more often? That was just like this revealed this hunger in the church for more authenticity and honesty. That was that was a highlight moment for me in Rooted.
I want to expand on that because what we did, just so everybody listening knows, is for that day for Strongholds, we separate.
Yeah.
So the men were in one group with you and the women were in one group with me. And we had the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. Women spoke about things that they've either never spoke about, much less in church. right? And the friendships, the crying, and the people, the women that didn't know each other,
Yeah.
and we're just like, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so transparent.
Right.
And the same thing. They were like, I can't believe we did this, and we need to do this more.
Right. Well, I that night I used the analogy with our group. I had this vision in my head of two people talking, making small talk about the weather. Meanwhile, one of them has like a fork jammed into their arm, like they're bleeding. They have this wound, and they're talking about, man, it sure is a nice day. And then a third guy walks up and goes, "You guys are talking about the weather. Are we gonna talk about the fork in your arm? Like, do we really want to talk about surface level things all the time, or can we just talk? Can we just be real?" And it was really special. In that night where everyone was so honest, again, people might run from the hills from that, but that wasn't night one. That was probably, I want to say 8, maybe. It was week 5. So you had already over a month of hearing people's stories, breaking bread together. So we had done a service project together already, I believe, or maybe we were just about to. But the point is we had really built relationship at that point. So what else would you say about Rooted? And who do you think you recommend maybe jumping in the next time that we launch the Rooted experience?
Oh, man. It's hard because I could gush about Rooted. I really, really, really loved it. Love it. I really think that this fits in our personality and our culture as a church. And even before, the more uncomfortable, daring talks like you were just talking about, like week 5, I will tell you, God's hand, like we saw it on day 1. Every week, 2 people would give their testimony. The first 3 weeks, the 2 people that volunteered to give their testimony had the same theme.
Yeah.
How in the world does that happen? But God,
Right.
That the same 2 people would have the same tragic background, tragic base story that got them to where they are.
Yeah.
And that was so confirming to the people that were kind of like, why am I here?
Yeah.
I'm just here for a class.
Right.
That really cemented for them that they were meant to be there.
Sure.
It was really, really cool.
That is cool. And what you said reminds me of maybe the last thing we can discuss is, I think there's a time to, of course, I'm a preacher. I think there's a time to hear a sermon and digest it and pray about what God wants to do with it in your life. I think there's a time to watch a video and talk about it, hear a lecture and study it and discuss it. But a unique element of Rooted, and so now let's talk about really the dynamic
structure
of it, is that it's not show up every week, hear a teaching, and then talk about it. It's not just open up your Bible and study together, but it comes with a level of personal responsibility, which is a key element to a faith that will thrive. If someone loves Jesus but doesn't take personal responsibility for their faith and their walk, they will not be a healthy, growing, rooted Christian. And so tell us a little bit about the dynamic. There's some teaching here and there, but for the most part, tell us about what is it that we're even talking about each week.
I love this because I've been talking to people about us launching Rooted in Waukesha, right? And they're all asking me exactly that question.
Yeah.
What is Rooted? Why are you so excited about this? Please give me the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm telling all of them. Alpha has a unique way of getting people together, letting the video be where we are telling them what we believe, and then the discussion is where they get to discuss what they believe.
Yeah, which is great.
And they get to mull through all that information,
Yeah.
right? I've kind of explained Alpha as like going to your undergrad. You get a lot of information, or high school, whatever.
Sure.
You get a lot of information thrown at you. You learn a lot, but you don't really get to deep dive, right? Now we have Rooted. Some of the weeks are the exact same titles as Alpha. And it's the same concept, where the Rooted program is where you're going to learn what we believe.
Yes.
And then in the class, that's where the participants get to talk about what they believe. They get to challenge it. It's a safe place to go, I just don't buy that.
Right.
This is where we talk about very big topics and we get to really dig into them. So the
Right.
way Rooted's structured is it's a devotional. In your 1 week, which is 7 days, you need to do 5 days of reading.
Right. And that comes in the book that you buy at the beginning
Right.
of the class.
Comes right in the book, and it's bite-sized reading. It's not very cumbersome at
Right.
all. And you do that reading, and it's all with a theme. 1 week is one topic, 5 different readings on it. And if you do your reading, you get to come to that next group with your questions, with your, I don't really feel good about this, or I didn't really understand this.
Yeah.
Or is this really how things work?
Mm-hmm.
Or equally, I'm really excited about this. I learned something new.
I've never
I'm
thought
really
about it that way.
passionate.
We
Right.
heard that a lot.
I never thought about it that way. And so what it does is this is more the master's degree. Now we're going to get into uncomfortable conversations. Now we're going to talk about strongholds. We're going to serve in our community as a group.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about, honestly, how can you make the most out of your life?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about topics people dance around, even as much as what does God really say about your money,
Right.
which is one of those topics.
Yeah.
And we spend a week on it. And nobody left that class feeling less than, feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
It was still a good, healthy conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And Rooted does a great job of explaining things without getting too academic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good word for it.
Sure.
And just keeping it real and showing you the Bible and really bringing you closer to Jesus.
Yeah, for sure. Well said. Well, and I think that about says it. So we're going to be launching Rooted at the Waukesha campus on January 15th. And so we just got done doing it in Oconomowoc. I'm certain we'll do it again out there. But if you come to the Waukesha campus, mark your calendar, January 15th. Do yourself a favor. Give yourself an 11-week challenge to be a part of Rooted. You will not regret it. We had so many people that showed up and never missed a week because of it. It was such a good experience. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, I would agree.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Maggie?
I do have one thing.
Please.
If you said who is Rooted for. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
I would say Rooted is for everyone, but it's not. If you are still a very new Christian, if you haven't gotten to the point where you're like, I'm a Jesus follower, then Rooted might not be for you yet. And Alpha 100% is for you.
Yeah, sure.
But I want to be very clear on that if you just walked into church for the first time last week,
Yeah.
Rooted probably isn't the right place for you, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Alpha is,
Yeah.
and that's always going to be available. Bridge
Yep.
Church is never going to stop doing that.
Yep.
But otherwise, whether you've been a Christian your whole life and you've been a member of the church for 40 years, or if you just moved to the area and you're new to Bridge Church, but you're a Christian, anywhere in the middle, Rooted is absolutely for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Awesome. Well, thank you, Maggie, for being a part of Rooted, and thank you for helping lead it in Waukesha. It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be amazing. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for listening to the Bridge Church Mid podcast. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening. Connect with us online at bridgechurch.net. Have a great day.